You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name for the court and spell your last name for the record?
Erick Moynihan, Moynihan.
Who are you employed by?
Blendon Township Police Department.
How long have you been employed by the Blendon Township Police Department?
I've worked there now for just over 17 years.
And in what capacity, sir?
As a police officer to start back in 2008, and then I was promoted to supervisor sergeant in 2011.
Prior to being employed at Blendon Township, where were you employed at?
I've had lots of law enforcement experience, starting all the way back when I was 17. I joined the United States Air Force and worked a total of 5.5 years in their version of military police, referred to as security forces. After that, or during that period of time, I was actually a certified officer in the state of Florida as well. Worked part-time with the city of Mexico Beach for a short bit until I moved to Ohio. I was sponsored by the village of Kirkersville and attended a police academy up here. Then picked up by the village of Granville in Licking County, where I worked for 4.5 years before now being at Blendon for 17.
Long decorated career in law enforcement. Did you you said you went to a police academy up here. Was that Opata?
No, I went to Hocking College in Nelsonville.
College?
Yes.
Did you eventually were you eventually certified by the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy?
Yes, passed the state test, and they've kept me around for 17 years now.
You said you were that you served in the Air Force. Thank you so much for your service. You said you were there military police for 5.5 years.
A total of 5.5 years in 2 separate sections of active duty, a 4-year contract with an honorable discharge, and then I was recalled again after 9/11 for another 1.5 years with another honorable discharge.
Were you deployed anywhere?
I was not. Different sort of reserve unit to take the place of the active duty teams at home so that they could deploy overseas.
My understanding, sir, is that in your capacity of employment at Blendon Township, you're also a field training officer?
I am.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what that entails?
Well, you might go to a police academy in whichever state, excuse me, as it is in Ohio. They teach you all the basic things you need to know about Ohio law and regulations, and all the standards set forth by the lawmakers and everything that you need to pass the standard in Ohio. However, depending on which agency you go to, the paperwork's different, the forms are different, the court systems are different. All of those matters. The day-to-day workload and job is slightly different. So that's your on-the-job training, so to speak, in person, in a car with someone with you.
Are you also a firearms instructor?
I am.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what that entails?
Mostly for a department our size, it just consists of conducting our annual qualifications, which we actually do twice a year, but that's it.
In order to qualify for a firearm, sir, do you and your trainees, or you and the people who you're instructing, go through shoot, don't shoot scenarios?
We have done those, yes.
Now, the jury has already heard a bunch of this, but what are you trained to do when you perceive an imminent threat of serious physical harm or death?
You're trained to respond to that threat, and if that means using deadly force, those are your actions that you have to justify, and there's a means to do that, but you may engage that threat until you stop the threat in that case.
And is that how you train other officers on the force as well?
Yes.
Where are you trained to shoot, sir, when you engage that threat?
So the most common place that we train to shoot is center mass, just for the likelihood of hitting your target and not trying to shoot limbs or anything else. But the main goal is not to injure or hurt anyone. It's just to stop whatever that perceived threat is at the time.
And when do you stop shooting, sir?
When that threat is stopped.
I want to talk to you a little bit about general police concepts. I'll let you get a sip of water first.
I'm listening.
Okay. What does reasonable articulable suspicion mean to you?
So it's kind of difficult to define, but essentially it's a standard of certain circumstances and articulable facts and circumstances that would cause a reasonable person to believe that a crime had been, is being, or about to be committed.
And is that what you need to stop and investigate a person?
Yes.
What do you need, what type of standard do you need in order to arrest a person?
That would be probable cause.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what probable cause means?
Basically, building on reasonable articulable suspicion, it's the idea that we would add in maybe some evidence, some fruits of the crime, tools used to commit the crime, and again, with, to cause a reasonable person to believe that a particular person committed a particular crime.
Thank you. I want to take you back, sir, to August 24th, 2023. The jury has already seen some of your body-worn camera. You had it on you that day, right?
I did.
Can you show the jury where it was positioned on this uniform?
I was not wearing this uniform on the day. We were wearing a more relaxed version with a polo shirt and utility pants. However, it would have been basically in the right side of my right side, low center.
And is it fixed on your uniform?
With a magnet to your shirt, yes.
Fair to say, sir, that it's a fisheye lens with that body-worn camera?
Yeah, I've heard it, a wide-angle lens, fisheye lens, something to that effect. I don't know the exact terminology.
You would agree with me that it doesn't always capture everything that you as a police officer sees, correct?
That is correct.
And sometimes, certainly you would agree with me that it captures things that you couldn't see. Is that correct?
That's also true.
I'm going to show you what has been previously marked as State's Exhibit 2. Would you recognize your body-worn camera if it were shown to you?
Yes.
Permission to play a snippet of Sergeant Moynihan's body-worn camera, Your Honor, so he can identify it as such.
You may.
May I please have computer, Miss Cook? Oh, you don't want Discord? Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought that was the right cord. Bless you. No, not that way. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Okay. For the record, I'm starting the video at 12 minutes and 2 seconds.
273.
73.
Sir, do you recognize that as your body-worn camera?
I do.
And you recognize that that it was your body-worn camera from August 24th, 2023?
Correct.
And it's a fair and accurate depiction of what you remember occurring on August 24th, 2023?
Yes.
Prior to that snippet that I just played, why were you at the Kroger parking lot on August 24th, 2023?
So initially, I was called to a hit-skip crash that occurred further down in the parking lot in front of that Dollar Tree that you can kind of see off to the right, where a vehicle trying to leave the parking lot was struck by another vehicle that backed into them.
Would you say that Dollar Tree is several hundred feet away from where you're standing at right now?
That sounds about right.
Now, on August 24th, 2023, did you have reasonable articulable suspicion to investigate and probable cause to detain who you now know as Miss Young?
I did.
What was that probable cause based on, sir?
That was based on a known party who makes themselves known in this video shortly, that I knew from previous calls and reports at the Kroger to be a manager at that particular location. Came out and flagged me down, gesturing to who I know to be Miss Young now, entering the black vehicle pictured on that screen, saying that she had just taken items from the store.
I'm going to play a portion of your body-worn camera now, beginning at 12:08, and I'm going to try to stop it at 12:27.
Attend to 29, 3705 Renagua, 3705.
What's that?
Female is hallucinating. Fletcherville asked for attend.
Hey, stop. Hey, out of the car. Out of the car. Out of the car. Out of the car.
Was there a license plate on the car that you just saw?
I did not see a license plate as I approached, no.
Was there a handicap placard? Do you know?
I did not see a handicap placard in the car, and it was in a marked handicap spot.
And you had mentioned earlier that you were aware, based on thefts at that Kroger from a manager who eventually comes out to tell you what's going on, correct?
Yes, I was aware of prior instances of theft. I had taken several reports of theft from that location previously.
Sir, why do you approach her window here?
Obviously, once I'm flagged down about a reported theft and the suspect is right there in front of me, I'm duty bound to make some sort of contact and attempt to resolve and investigate this crime that's just been alleged to me. I can't just wave it off, and I can't just go back to doing the lockout. So that's the quickest and most expeditious way is to just go up to the driver's side window and make contact as I would on a traffic stop or something to that effect.
Did you make it clear that she wasn't free to leave?
I believe I did, yes.
I want to talk to you in general about noncompliance. When someone is noncompliant to you, what's the next step in your thought process?
Well, it always raises a question as to what else is going on. As out of this incident, all I know it to be is just a misdemeanor theft so far. So shoplifting, as some people would call it, so a misdemeanor crime nonetheless. It doesn't seem like a very big deal to me. So I don't know what else is going on, why we don't just resolve this as adults.
When someone is non-compliant to you, do you attempt to de-escalate that situation?
Yes,
Do you attempt to gain compliance?
obviously, yes.
Is officer presence a way to encourage compliance?
Yes.
Was the driver in that car on August 24th, 2023, was she compliant?
No.
I want to direct your attention to this screen grab right here. Who is the bald gentleman with the glasses?
That is Officer Connor Grubb.
You know Officer Connor Grubb?
Yes.
Had you worked on the same shift prior to that date, or tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury in what capacity you know Connor?
Connor was hired by our police department in 2019. I think initially as part-time, but just for a very brief period of time before he was given a full-time position. And then I was one of his primary field training officers. And then ultimately, once he was released from training, we ended up working together on my shift, usually 3 days a week or so.
I want to talk to you about a law enforcement concept, again, that the jury has heard a ton about, but what's known as contact and cover. Are you familiar with that concept?
I am.
Can you tell the jury what a contact officer's responsibilities are as opposed to what a cover officer's responsibilities are?
Well, as I see it, the contact officer is just as it sounds, the one making contact with the subject of the call, whatever that might be or whoever that might be. Handling, trying to de-escalate whatever situation might be going on there, trying to further the investigation and obtain relevant facts and information to, again, move that investigation along. Whereas the cover officer is essentially looking at everything else, the scene, the environment around them, keeping track of whatever else might be happening, bystanders or something else happening in the environment, in the area, or other safety clues that maybe I don't see, all the while keeping in mind that we need to be cognizant that we both have firearms on us, and if things went bad, we wouldn't want a crossfire situation between the two of us. So we try not to put that subject of the call in between the two of us. So that kind of limits where you can be.
Thank you, Sergeant. I want to break that down a little bit. Based on your training and experience, can Connor provide effective cover if he were standing right next to you?
I wouldn't think so. Do you mean like any particular side or?
If he were if he were on the same side as you?
Just on the same side of the vehicle in general. He'd basically be looking at the same things that I'm doing. She may not realize there's a second officer there, and that officer presence factor is a thing. Whether there's one officer or two officers or more officers would just tend to, raise the situation. Somebody might deem that to be more serious than what it is. So the idea that there's two officers on scene as opposed to just one I think is an important thing for even the subject of the call to know sometimes.
Could he provide effective cover from the rear of the car, standing near that handicap placard post that you see in that frame?
So had there been a license plate on the car that maybe I wasn't able to jot down or remember, a cover officer could go back there and maybe write that down while I'm making contact. But there was no license plate, so in effect, I'm not sure how much good that would do from that angle or position either.
You mentioned crossfire earlier to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You stated that you didn't want to put a subject in between you and the cover officer. Can you expand on that a little bit?
It's just that principle that if things do go badly and we both ended up discharging our weapons, we certainly wouldn't want to have a crossfire situation between the two of us. So that's just the general premise.
So based on your training and experience as both a sergeant and a field training officer, is an effective place to cover in front of the car?
In this instance, I could see that, yes.
In that car, as far as you know, when Connor is approaching it, was it stationary?
It was stationary.
And at this point in time, sir, that you're interacting with her, you mentioned you had probable cause for a theft or shoplifting. Is that correct?
Yes, I would say I did.
After the non-compliance, do you have probable cause for any type of additional crimes?
As she's being non-compliant, then there's the additional charge of potential obstruction or resisting, if you would make that argument, both misdemeanors as well.
Hypothetically speaking, sir, if she had pulled off at this point, would you have any probable cause for any additional crimes?
Other than the obstructing and outside of any conduct that might happen in the parking lot on the way out, I can't think of anything.
If she fled, do you think you may have tried to charge her with failure to comply with a police officer's order?
I could as a misdemeanor again, but I would not have been able to pursue if that's what you're asking.
If she attempts to cause serious physical harm in addition to the theft and the potential fleeing, what type of crime is that?
So can you rephrase? I'm sorry.
Yes, no, I'm so sorry. It's a terrible question. If the driver here commits serious physical harm and flees in addition to the theft offense, what type of crimes would you have probable cause for at that point?
Okay, so the addition of the use of force coupled with a theft or fleeing immediately after a theft escalates that theft from a misdemeanor, even if it was to start with, to a robbery offense. Using some sort of weapon in that fleeing action would then escalate that to an aggravated robbery.
Are those serious crimes?
Yes.
Now, sir, when someone tries to hit an officer with a vehicle, even if they miss, what crime would you have probable cause for in that instance?
That could be a felonious assault then. All of the assault crimes in the Ohio Revised Code Book are literally worded as cause or attempt to cause physical harm. So the physical harm doesn't actually have to happen. It's just needs to be demonstrated that it was attempted.
Thank you, Sergeant. Now, you mentioned you've been to that parking lot several times. Is that correct?
Yes. If
you wanted to leave that spot where that driver is, do you have to make a hard right turn or a hard left turn in order to leave that spot?
It's difficult to explain, but the main entry and exit points to that parking lot run alongside that driveway that runs directly in front of the Kroger that's partially visible there, and the main entrance. And it kind of cuts at a 45-degree angle to the building on either side of that main entrance, where then it straightens out. So in order to get out of the parking lot, the most expeditious way would be to make a right to get on that drive. I'm not sure if I explained that right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And the ladies and gentlemen of the jury got to see the Kroger parking lot.
Okay.
Sir, based on your interactions with Miss Young in the car, could you tell she was pregnant?
No.
Fair to say, sir, that you had a longer interaction with her than Connor did on August 24th, 2023?
Yes.
I'm going to continue playing your body-worn camera from 12:27 to 12:39.
car.
For what?
Out of the car.
For what?
They said your stole stuff, do not leave. Get out of the car.
Shit, the other
Then
person
then
said-
get out.
No, I'm not
No,
doing that.
then get out.
You gonna shoot me?
Get-
Did you see yourself try to hit the window?
I did.
Why did you do that?
The intent at the time was I lost track of how many times I told her to get out of the car, somewhere between 8 to 10 times. And it seemed like I wasn't getting anywhere. She rolled the window down to talk to me, and I thought briefly that was progress, but it was not. So my intent was to break the window in an effort to remove her from the car to keep her at the scene.
I'm going to continue playing your BWC from 12:38 to the 13:02 mark.
Car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car! Shots fired! Stop the goddamn car! Stop the goddamn car!
We're gonna have 44 on 73 Clifton Route. He's gonna be.
There it is.
Sir, when that car took off, did that surprise you?
Absolutely.
What did you do at that point in time?
Well, I had my hand in the window. I guess I would equate it to almost having your foot in a door. But more to convey the idea that she wasn't free to leave, that we were going to continue this investigation. And obviously my intent was to break the window, so I did not expect the window to still be intact, and didn't foresee her driving off and me still holding on. So that took a second for my brain to catch up with what was happening there, both with the failure of me to be able to break the window in the first place and then the vehicle start moving.
You said you held on to the window. What happened to your body as the car drove off and you're holding on to the window?
I was pulled alongside, had to take some sort of running steps to kind of get my feet back under myself again.
And then you eventually ran into Connor?
I did,
Based on your experience, sir, is that a dangerous situation?
yes.
Now, sir, to the best of your knowledge, was the shot fired before you were drug into Connor? Before you came into contact with Connor?
Before I came into contact, yes.
Sir, why did you not fire your weapon when you were on the side of the car?
Well, a couple of reasons. For one, I had my hands full. Again, I was trying to break the window. And from my perspective and my point of view at that time, I didn't have a threat towards me. So it wasn't until I get pulled alongside the car and then realized that a shot's fired and bump into Officer Grubb that I realized he drew his weapon and fired. So then I did the same, thinking I missed something, and responded from there.
How quickly is this all happening?
Seconds.
Hypothetically, sir, based on your training, if you perceived an imminent threat of serious physical harm or death, would you respond with the appropriate force?
I would.
Sergeant, is there a difference between a perceived threat and an actual threat? Let me give you a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Blendon Township responds to a bank robbery. A person who's alleging to have robbed the bank is coming out of the bank. He's got a gun in his hand and he's pointing it at police officers. Would you classify that as a perceived threat?
Yes.
Now, in that same hypothetical, you guys are barricading, the Blendon Township Police Department is barricading that bank. In that same hypothetical, that robber of the bank is coming out, but he's shooting at anybody and everybody involved in the parking lot. Is that an actual threat?
Yes.
And also a perceived threat, right?
Yes.
So a perceived threat can actually become an actual threat, right?
If I follow your logic, yes.
Once that threat is employed or once the trigger is pulled, right?
Yes.
Now, hypothetically, in that first hypothetical with the bank robber and he comes out and he points a gun at you, you as a police officer, you don't have to wait until he pulls the trigger, correct?
You do not.
And that's because you perceive an imminent threat of serious physical harm or death. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And that would permit you to respond with deadly force if that firearm is pointed at you, right?
Yes.
And an actual threat also, if that bank robber comes out and is shooting at anybody and everybody in that parking lot, an actual threat also permits you to respond with deadly force based on your training. Is that right?
Yes.
Because at this moment, the weapon is actually being used. You would agree with that, right?
Agreed.
Now, sir, hypothetically, had the driver of that vehicle complied with you or complied with you and Officer Grubb, what would have happened? What would you have done in that situation with the driver of that vehicle?
Well, as I explained earlier, this was just a shoplifting call to me. As far as I knew it to be a misdemeanor. It's not uncommon to, I'd have her step out, identify her, collect whatever evidence we maybe could, may even stay with her in the parking lot and send Officer Grubb inside to review camera footage or get statements from any other employees or witnesses that witnessed, get an inventory of what was taken, but ultimately clear the scene, writing a ticket or a summons, essentially, for her to appear in court at a later time.
Sir, I want to talk to you about the use of force continuum. What exactly is the use of force continuum based on?
Basically, a framework for how to classify an officer response to subject actions, so an action response sort of diagram.
Would you agree with me that an action is always faster than a reaction?
Action is fast, yes.
And is that how you train officers in Blendon Township?
Yes, and that's also the reason that you don't have to wait for that actual threat.
Now, is there a time frame associated on each stage of the use of force continuum?
It doesn't have a time frame or an order, particular order that you have to progress through or to.
So would you agree with me then, sir, that depending on certain situations, your use of force continuum can go from 0 to lethal in a matter of split seconds?
Absolutely.
Sir, have you drawn your weapon before in an attempt to gain compliance?
I have.
Have you had to fire your weapon before?
No.
Do you draw your weapon? Would you draw your weapon in an effort to gain compliance?
I have, yes.
Is that a method that you train officers on?
Yes.
I want to talk to you, sir, about cars in general. Are you aware that a slow-moving car can cause serious physical harm?
Yes.
How are you aware of that, sir?
In March of 2023, I unfortunately was involved in an on-duty crash in a marked cruiser. I was turning left and momentarily distracted by my in-car computer, responding not lights and siren to the call I was going to and reviewing the notes and details. And I struck a pedestrian in a marked crosswalk. I was going a little less than 15 miles an hour, and the pedestrian immediately fell down. He did not go up and over the hood of the cruiser, nor did I run over any actual part of his body. But I was concerned because he did hit his head and had an obvious visible bleeding injury on his head. It wasn't until later that I actually learned he suffered a broken leg out of that collision.
Sir, I want to talk to you about any injuries you may have sustained on August 24th, 2023. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Let the record reflect that I am approaching Sergeant Moynihan with what has been previously marked for identification purposes as Defendant's Exhibit K. Sir, do you recognize that document?
I do.
It's a picture of you on August 24th of 2023.
Yes.
And can you flip to page 2 of that document?
Yes.
I believe page 2 of that document is a close-up of your pants on August 24th, 2023. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. Did you have blood on your pants when you were photographed?
I did.
Were your pants ripped?
I think they were still serviceable.
Did you have injuries on your knees or shins or anywhere in your lower extremities?
I don't recall having any injuries.
Certainly you would have reported them had you had injuries so that BCI could document them, correct?
Yes.
Sir, were you kneeling on the ground longer than Connor was kneeling on the ground on August 24th, 2023?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you, Sergeant. Were you originally going to testify for the prosecution?
I had heard that I would be subpoenaed or had been subpoenaed. I had never received a subpoena.
But we had to call you as the defense instead. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you know why?
I don't know.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Right.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Moynihan, for being here. I have no further questions for you at this time. I'm sure the prosecution has some questions for you. We can just leave that up there for now. Thank you, sir.
Any cross-examination?
Just want you to trip over that corner.
Good afternoon, Sergeant Moynihan.
Good afternoon.
My name is Erin Claypool, and I am one of the prosecutors assigned to the case representing the state of Ohio. Isn't it true that we did reach out to you through an attorney to speak with you prior to this case starting trial?
My understanding is reached out, yes, there was an invite to grand jury, and that was, I received a invite to a pretrial conference, but no subpoena.
But a pretrial conference and attempted to speak with you prior to this case, and would you agree that through an attorney you declined to meet with us beforehand, which is your right?
I did.
And so this is the first time we're meeting each other, is that?
Yes.
Now, tell me a little bit about Blendon Township. How big is that department?
Well, it was much larger until recently. We've had some levee failures and some folks have departed, but we are a single-digit department, including the chief now, and we service about 10,000 residents all the way up in the northeast corner of Franklin County, the Hoover Dam area, although that has now been annexed by the city of Columbus.
And you told Ms. Stevens that you actually were a sergeant on shifts that the defendant, Connor Grubb, would work with you, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
How long did that assignment, where the two of you would have been working as officer and sergeant, how long did that last?
Essentially through his FTO period, without looking at it, I think the majority of that was on second shift, which was my shift. And then I was generally assigned to that same shift, so essentially from his hire date in 2019.
So from 2019 until 2023, you would have supervised him on shifts, and I think you said maybe 3 times a week.
Yes, that would be the normal course.
Did you socialize with Connor Grubb outside of work?
During the period of time then, no.
Now do you?
I have on a few occasions since this incident happened, yes.
And as a sergeant for Blendon Township Police Department, are you a member of the FOP?
I am,
How long have you been a member of the FOP?
since my hire date.
After this incident on August 24th, 2023, did you eventually meet with BCI special agents to talk about the case?
I did.
And did that happen on October 11th, 2023?
That does sound correct.
And do you remember Special Agent Douglas and Special Agent Mulford being there representing BCI?
I remember the names. I don't specifically remember them by face.
And you were there. Was there anyone else present for that interview?
Yes, an attorney of mine through the FOP.
During that interview, do you remember telling the agents that you did not recognize the woman who we now know as Miss Young when you approached the car?
Correct, I did not recognize her.
And I believe you had also told those agents that although you had known about some prior thefts, you had no knowledge that she was involved in them. Would
That
you
i-
agree?
That is correct. I had no knowledge that she was specifically involved in any prior thefts.
And I think you mentioned this. You also had told the agents back on October 11, 2023, that you did not perceive a threat to yourself during your interaction with Ms. Young. Would you agree with that?
I agree, I did not.
And you were asked about, is it contact and cover? Is that what you were asked about by Ms. Stevens?
Yeah, the terms that she used, yes.
Okay, what would you use as those terms?
No, yes, that was it.
Okay, so in that scenario back on August 24th, 2023, you would have been the contact?
Yes,
And it's important to know where your cover is?
yes.
Okay. But on that interview on October 11, 2023, do you remember saying once Connor Grubb walked behind you, you did not really know where he was?
I do recall saying that, yes.
So at that point, you're doing the contact, but you really don't know where your cover is.
I also clarified that to be, I knew that he was generally on my left and generally in the front of the vehicle, but I could not have pinpointed exactly where.
And you agree that you never even drew your firearm prior to the shooting.
That is correct.
And then with respect to your contact with Miss Young, at one point, would you agree she does roll down her window?
Yes,
And at that point, did you put your hand in the window?
I did.
May I approach this witness, Your Honor? Sergeant Moynihan, I'm going to show you what I've marked as Exhibit 81. It's a screen grab. Well, would you agree it's a screen grab from your body-worn camera?
I agree.
Okay, and do you see your hand on the window in State's Exhibit 81?
I do.
Okay, permission to publish.
You may.
Just quickly, what number is that?
81. We hooked in? Okay, let me try it again. So Sergeant Moynihan, is State's Exhibit 81 a fair and accurate depiction of your hand after you held the window on August 24, 2023?
Yes,
Now, she didn't roll the window up on your hand at all, did she?
she did not.
And there was nothing preventing you from letting go of that window that day, was there?
There was not.
During that interview on October 11th, 2023, do you remember telling the agents that you were surprised that there was a shot?
The sound of the shot did surprise me, yes.
So you weren't expecting a shot, but you agree?
Correct.
And it was only after you heard the shot and started to move that you then drew your weapon, is that correct?
After I heard the shot, saw Officer Grubb Officer Grubb with his firearm out, then I drew my weapon as well.
And when you were communicating with Ms. Young, do you remember in that October 11th, 2023 interview saying you really didn't even hear Connor Grubb or anything he was saying in the front of the car?
I did say that, yes.
And you never left the driver's side window when you were talking to Miss Young and walked to the front spot of the car, did you?
I never did, no.
You didn't choose to move from the window, the driver's side window area to the front of the car?
I did not.
And I think you were asked some questions in that same interview we've been talking about individuals that were around the car. And at that time, I think you told us about the woman from Kroger and that you remembered that she was around the car. Would you agree?
Yes, talking about the placement of other people in the parking lot, that conversation from the interview, yes.
But would you also agree that that key lockout that was happening, at that point, you didn't think they were in the picture?
If you asked me to describe where they were, they would have been, I guess, off to my right. Again, I could not have told you specifically where they were.
Now, when Miss Young was shot, does the car just move forward towards the Kroger?
Yes, it continues rolling.
And isn't it true that at that point you didn't believe there was any control of that car by the driver?
So after I drew my weapon and issued verbal commands to make sure that there wasn't some ongoing or continuing threat that I had missed previously, I did not see any input from the driver, as I told the agents in that interview. I didn't see any brake lights. I didn't see any turning inputs. But
Ultimately, does the Lexus move forward and kind of stop into a pillar?
it strikes the building first, and then kind of turns with the momentum to be parallel with the building, if that makes sense.
When the Lexus first, there was a first stop and then ultimately the car goes forward. So I want to talk about that first stop. Were you and Connor Grubb attempting to get Miss Young out of the car?
Yes.
And at that point, was there a time when the car kind of moved forward when you were trying to get Miss Young out of the car?
When Officer Grubb was trying to get her out of the car, yes. Because of the pillar you mentioned, there wasn't enough room in there for both of us without potentially getting crushed but around that, or enough room to work. So he was trying to get her out, and the vehicle lurched forward again, kind of scraping the wall until it came to rest again against a abutment.
And during that series of events, did you see Officer Grubb fall to the ground?
I don't recall seeing that.
When you were kneeling on the ground to provide assistance to Miss Young, was that in the area where the car ultimately came to rest?
So it came to rest on the covered sidewalk portion in front of the building. And after she was out of the car, we drug her a short bit away. I think I was in the parking lot area.
Let me ask it this way, Sergeant Moynihan. When you started to check her pulse, provide emergency care, was that the same area where ultimately you started CPR?
Yes.
Okay, so you're in that same spot once you're down trying to assist Miss Young.
Yes.
And you were never down on the ground when the car kind of paused prior to that. Like the car kind of pauses because it's a little bit stuck, and then it kind of goes forward. That's what I'm talking about. So
Okay. Yes,
in
fair
that
enough.
First area, before it goes to its final resting place, you never kneeled there.
I never did, no.
And ultimately, you only were assisting Miss Young when she came out of the car, you got her out of the car where we see the blood stains.
Yes, yeah.
There's been some discussion about hearing the sound of tires in this case. Would you agree that on October 11th, 2023, when you talked to the agents from BCI, you had said on August 24th, 2023, I never heard that?
Yeah, that is true. During the incident, I didn't recall hearing the screeching tires. It wasn't until after I reviewed the video that I could hear it.
And you never heard the words that Connor Grubb was using when he was to your left at the front of the car?
Correct.
And you were standing right outside of the car by Miss Young, who's inside of the car,
Yes.
and you couldn't hear his words.
Well, I didn't remember what he was saying. I couldn't have told you what he was saying. I was focused on what I was trying to accomplish at the time, and I just could not have told you in real time without watching the video what he had said.
Were you given the opportunity to watch that body-worn camera, first of all, yours, after this incident?
I was.
And did you watch your own body-worn camera prior to talking to the agents on October 11th, 2023?
I did.
Had you also been given the opportunity to review Connor Grubb's body-worn camera prior to that October 11th, 2023 interview with BCI?
Yes.
How many times do you think you've watched your own body-worn camera?
Prior to that date or since?
Since today.
All the way?
Like all the way.
Okay. So, I mean, prior to the interview, I only watched maybe 2 or 3 times. Not very much. I wanted it to be more of what I recalled about the incident and less of what I studied on video about the incident. Since then, I've watched it several more times. I would feel comfortable saying maybe 10 for each, and I would add the Kroger security video in there as well.
So you were able to watch the Kroger security video. Was that prior to October 11, 2023 when you met with BCI?
I think I saw a portion of that video, but I don't know that I watched the whole thing until just recent weeks.
And who showed you your own body-worn camera? How did you get access to that?
My FOP attorney.
And with respect to Officer Grubb's body-worn camera, who gave you access to that?
Same FOP attorney.
What about the Kroger surveillance video?
Same FOP attorney.
One moment, Your Honor. Thank you, Sergeant Moynihan. I have no further questions.
May be direct.
Thank you. May I inquire?
You may.
Thank you. Sir, is this the first time that I'm meeting you?
Yes.
I'm not your FOP attorney.
You are not?
Anything that your FOP attorney did or didn't do change how you remembered everything that day?
No.
I never sent you a letter for a pretrial conference.
You did not?
You mentioned to Ms. Claypool that you gave an oral statement to BCI lead agent Douglas. Do you remember speaking to her about that?
Yes.
Sir, was that a full voluntary statement?
It was?
Would you be surprised if I told you that you gave Agent Douglas a full voluntary statement for 37 minutes?
No, that sounds right.
You were asked on on cross-examination by Ms. Claypool if you socialized with Connor Grubb. Would you lie for Connor Grubb?
No.
When you were giving CPR and instituting life-saving measures on the driver of that vehicle, sir, were you kneeling?
I was.
Were you kneeling on your shins or your knees?
On my knees?
And you were putting the pressure on your knees, is that correct?
Yes, part of CPR, you're literally using your upper half body weight, so the pressure would be more forward on your knees, in my experience and many times of doing CPR.
Sir, was the driver of that vehicle free to go when both you and Connor had approached that vehicle?
No,
Ms. Claypool asked that you didn't fire your weapon. Do you remember those questions?
I do.
You weren't standing where Connor was standing on August 24th, 2023, were you?
I was not.
The car wasn't trying to hit you, was it?
No.
Were you surprised that the car tried to hit Connor Grubb?
I was surprised when it lurched forward, yes.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Any questions as a result of those? All right, you can step down.
Thank you.
Leave everything there. You can take your water bottle.